Welcome back, everyone, to Defining Christianity, episode number 3. In episode number 1, we talked about how everyone is called to become a disciple of Jesus. That was Jesus' command in the Great Commission. Of course, we understand Jesus was the one with all the authority in heaven and on earth to give the commission. And so that's a command for everyone in the world to become a disciple of Jesus. It's not a suggestion. We can't change it. We don't have any authority to change that command. And Jesus was very clear. In episode 2, we looked at one of the first characteristics of a disciple, and that is evangelization. In other words, a true disciple of Jesus is someone who fishes for people. And we considered, okay, why would that be Jesus' number one priority and purpose for his disciples? Well, it's because, as it says in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. And so, in the midst of this pandemic, it's a good reminder that the number one pandemic in the world is actually sin. It's the lust of the heart. It's the hatred of mankind. It's murder. It's lying. It's stealing. It's drunkenness. It's drug abuse. It's all these things that destroy our relationship with God and destroy relationships with one another. And so here I want to look at a second characteristic of a disciple. And this is going to define for us a little bit further what does a true Christian according to the Bible look like. Because remember, a Christian is a disciple. It's just a nickname for a disciple. Jesus never used the word Christian. And so really what we're learning is how to become disciples of Jesus. Let's look at Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 23. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. It reads, "Then he said to them all, 'Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels.'" And so here Jesus, he opens up the passage speaking to everybody around him, and he says, if anyone, so this applies to everyone, if anyone wants to be my disciple, then they must deny themselves every day. They must carry their cross daily and follow me. Whoever wants to save their life in this world will lose it, but whoever loses their life in this world for Jesus will save it. And so here we understand that becoming a disciple of Jesus is what we would call in the religious world a salvation issue. In other words, if we do not decide to become disciples, then we will never be saved. We will never have a relationship with God. We'll always be separated for eternity. But if we decide to become disciples, then we can be saved. Now, the condition that Jesus draws in the sand here is he says, you must deny yourself, you must carry your cross daily. Of course, carrying the cross was a symbol of capital punishment. And so when you decide to become a true Christian, that means you're deciding to destroy, to execute, if you will, your old life. Your old life of drunkenness, your old life of impurity, your old life of cursing, of using foul language, your old life of obscenities, your old life of lying, your old life of stealing. You're deciding of unforgiveness. That's a big one for people, and bitterness. You're deciding to crucify this old life. And every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, in church, outside of church, at home, at your work, wherever you are, you're deciding to behave like Christ, to take on his heart and his mind. And he says this is essential to become a true disciple of Jesus. This is essential to becoming a true Christian, which makes sense because, again, what does Christian mean in Greek? It means to be Christ-like. The disciples were called Christians specifically because every day they lived like Christ. And so the old saying, what would Jesus do, is actually a good saying. But if you're not living that way, then you understand you need to change. And so this is the solution for everything that we see happening in the world. It literally solves all of our problems. Politics are not going to solve it. Waiting for other people to change without us actually making the changes first isn't going to solve it. We need to decide to imitate the life and the heart and the mind of Christ. And that's what it means in this passage today to be a true Christian. So evangelizing, and changing our lives to be like Christ. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 in Defining Christianity.